That's wonderful. I love it. I do sessions on Instagram called Ask Me Anything, and I don't do any slides or any presentation. I just answer questions.
So are you ready for the kids to ask you questions, as because I think they're all full of
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about me so you know at least what to ask me about. And I'll share my beginning slide. But yes, I'm absolutely, if you want to just do that, I am more than happy to do it. And it's easier for me. Okay, so first I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah. Noelle, can we introduce?
Yes,
so that
yes. I'm just going to, yes.
Oh, are we ready? Should I wait? Okay, let me know.
Yes. So Coding and More is once again the official country host for the Ada Lovelace Girls in AI 2021 India Hackathon. My name is Tanvi Mehta, and I am an educator with Coding and More. To inspire our young learners, we now have our next keynote speaker, Noelle Silver. She's a multi-award winning technologist and the CEO and founder of AI Leadership Institute. A true futurist and ethicist, Noelle works closely with technology companies specializing in conversational AI, intelligent apps, and strongly believes in responsible AI practices. So fun fact for you here, kids, Noelle is an entrepreneur. Okay, that means she is a person who is given the power of an entrepreneur, but within another organization. So that's a new word, I think, for a lot of us here today. Among her many accolades and honors, she was most recently awarded MVP in AI by Microsoft. So it is indeed my pleasure to welcome you here, Noelle, with us today. So over to you now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully you could see it. I'm going to go ahead and go into presentation mode. So I'll just spend a couple minutes telling you how I start every conversation. And actually, as you are just developing what you're interested in, I encourage you, like you are going to fall in love with products. You're going to get ideas for businesses. And what I encourage you to do as you begin this journey is to really understand yourself and what makes you happy and what drives you personally, and share that as part of your passion, as part of your your startup, as part of the company you're working for. Let who you are be fully immersed in what you do. And I do this every day. I am a bit of an anomaly, which means like basically I stand out. I'm one of the few who actually talks about my family when I get on stage, but it's such an important part because this is the moment where you're like, oh, I know what it's like to be a kid. Oh, I have a grandpa. Like you will relate to some of the things I say. And it's such an important part of connecting with your audience. But I'm Noelle Silver. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. This is my why. I have a gaggle of humans that I am raising and in this world. And really, my introduction and interest in artificial intelligence began probably when I was pretty young, around 6 years old. My dad was encouraging me to read books that were science fiction, right? That were Bradbury and Asimov are authors from like the 1940s, way back when, but they were writing technology that didn't seem that far off, right? Flying cars and talking to robots. And now it's very interesting because now, many, many years later, after reading those books, I do actually work on this technology today. My son here in the middle, his name is Max. He has Down syndrome. And when he was born, he was my firstborn child. I have 4 now, but he was the first one. And everyone, including the staff at the hospital, was like, oh, there's not much of a future for him. There's not much he's going to be able to do in this world. And maybe that was true at some point, maybe 10, maybe 15 years ago. But today, with the advent of technology, with the ability to use your voice to build technology and use technology and connect with companies and brands, he's actually able to do quite a bit in this world. And he loves art, he loves music, and he curates his own playlists, and he's very engaged. And only because I think the world has now thought about what it's like to build accessible products, right? Products that are available to everyone. I do have quite a few things kind of that have happened over the last few years. I'm MVP, as was mentioned. Microsoft awards industry professionals with the most valuable professional award. Mine is specifically in the area of artificial intelligence. I just recently got awarded responsibility and ethics award for women in AI by VentureBeat, which is a big technology organization. And all of this is just to say, I'm not afraid to share out loud what I do and how I do it. The only reason I am on these stages and getting these awards is because about 7 years ago, a product was born that was like this little box in a kitchen, and it was built for the 1% of the 1%. We were just ending the last session with like, something about wealth. That's what I heard, right? About how lots of, and literally Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, was like, I want to create this cool little trinket for the 1% of the world that has enough money to pay for this and wants to talk to their kitchen. And however, in building that, yes, of course, it was focused initially on that demographic, but today Amazon has groups focused on elderly care, where voice technology can serve the most. They have focused on classrooms and speech pathology, and the ability for us to actually use this little thing that was built for a very small subset of people that didn't really need it. And it is now, because of that, it is now being offered in many different places. And I got excited about it. I was employee 10, very early days. There are thousands of people working on Alexa today. I was employee 10 on the skills team. I built over 100 skills for Alexa, and in those 100, I have over 1 million unique users of those skills. 1 million. Like, I never thought I'd have 1 million users of anything that I built. But I did all of this from inside a company. And that's why I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, which means that you don't have to be a startup all the time. Like, you don't have to start your own thing from scratch. You can go into a company that has money, that has funding, that will give you staff, and you could do some of the same amazing things. So that's me in a nutshell. Yes, that is a ninja cat in that trophy. If you don't see it, it's very special to me. But it is an award I got from Microsoft, which is their logo. So now you know a little bit about me. I'm more than happy to now just open it up and take some
Miss,
questions.
I have a few questions.
Yes.
Miss, one is you helped build Alexa?
Yes.
Wow. And second is, what exactly are you the founder of? Could you describe a bit more?
Great question. So the second year I was at Alexa, I realized there was a gap. And this is something each one of you can do. It's how you make your way in the world, is you identify a gap, develop expertise to solve for that gap, and then promote it like crazy. Tell everyone you've solved their problem, and you will be compensated for that solution. Not for how pretty you are or how smart you are or the degree that you got, but because you solve people's problems. And so the problem I aim to solve, I created the AI Leadership Institute. It has multiple products, but the main reason for it was because the executive leadership in most of the Fortune 100, 1000 don't know what AI is or how it can be useful. And the danger in that is that today they're buying AI, they're investing in AI. And if they don't know what they're buying, they can actually accidentally do things that harm people like my son, harm people like my dad, who has some cognitive issues as he gets older, not considering, like, we all are driving towards the bleeding edge of technology, but we will leave the world behind. And in doing that, we do a disservice to the world, right? Our job is to use this technology to make the world better holistically, not just for the 1% who can afford my services, not just for the people in Silicon Valley in California that are excited about this new tech, but for all people with physical disabilities, people with cognitive or mental disability, people who can't speak, can't hear. Our job is to create technology that serves everyone, or at least this is my belief. And so I started AI Leadership Institute to educate executive boards and company leadership that was their responsibility. And we've been very successful. We just launched girls. It's actually a little bit older than you. We call it grade 13 and 14. It's right after you graduate high school. It's to get girls and young women into technology, and really learning the tech is not the hard part, right? We all can go heads down and learn anything. like literally you can become an artist, a musician, what if you just do the work and learn the craft. So the technology is just the craft, but it's surviving in a world where you are a marginalized or underrepresented voice. It's being mentally strong enough to be able to have a conversation when you're the only one with the perspective that you have. It's very difficult. Many of us, all of the women who have been in this role, like it is very difficult if you don't have a community to support you to be the only voice all the time, like in every room. How am I the only brown person? It's 2021 and I'm still the only woman on a call with all white men. Like how is that possible? Like, have we not gotten there yet? And the reality is actually our numbers are worse now. And I don't just mean for women. I just mean if you aren't Caucasian, if you aren't white, you will be one of the only in the field, because our numbers are in the single digits. 6% of all women and specifically Latinas, people of my heritage, there's 1% Latinas in computer science. 1%, that's crazy. 4% African-American, 7% brown in general, 25% altogether, anyone who's not Caucasian, 25%. That still means you will be you'll be 3 to 1 in any room you're in, no matter what. That's just not okay. So that's what I do with AI Leadership Institute. Thank you so much for asking. But I also very quickly founded another company. So I'm an intrapreneur and an entrepreneur, which you will find they're very tightly aligned. I like to do things in big companies and have big impact, but then I also want to teach individuals how to speak on stage, how to do what I do now, right? How to speak in a meeting, how to have a conversation in a party where you make an impact and you get people to think about important things, especially your vision of the world that you want. How do you move that vision forward? It starts with really being able to articulate your vision to the world. And so I have a company called Lovefluencers, which I have a link at the end of my presentation, which I'll share with you. And you can go sign up. And all I do is teach on Instagram and on Facebook all about how to build a brand with empathy and kindness, as opposed to what you all were alluding to at the end of the last session, right? Instead of like, here's my cool car and here's my 5 houses and here's my Lamborghini. Like, what if our brand was built on love, kindness, service to the world? I believe we can get just as much benefit, just as much value. And more importantly, you can make good money being kind and empathetic. You don't have to be all weird.
That's great, Miss. I also wanted to know, you said 2 words, intrapreneur and outrapreneur. What does those mean?
Yes. So I'll start with entrepreneur. This is a very popular term. It means you are interested in always working for yourself, starting your own business. So entrepreneurs, and someone can maybe type it into the chat because sometimes it's hard to just say it. And you know what the word actually is, but entrepreneurs, very popular. Shark Tank, if you've ever heard of Shark Tank, is full of entrepreneurs trying to get their idea into the world. Anyone who is running a startup is an entrepreneur. It is people who have ideas and then build businesses to support those ideas. But just as important is a term that I personally use, which means that I love starting companies, but I also recognize that companies like Microsoft, I'll tell you, I became an intrapreneur, which means I got a job at Microsoft, but I was given a budget of $1 million to build a new feature. $1 million, which I had complete autonomy to build. I created the marketing team. I created the engineering team. And I was like, that's in my mind, the best startup, right? Is when I'm given that and I don't have to chase money. I'll have to ask my mom and my dad, or not that my parents have money, but I don't have to go to friends and family, which is often the initial stage of entrepreneurship. You can do and be almost anything you want to be inside an existing company. And maybe it's inside another startup. But I guess my point is you don't always have to be the one person with the idea. You could be literally number 2, right? The operational support. You could be the financial person. You could be the marketing person. And you can take an idea you care about and make it even more successful. So thank you for that. I'm going to open up the chat. Thank you. So yeah, those are the 2 terms. You can Google them. and it'll give you some additional information. But
Miss, I
both are
want to ask
valid
you
paths, right? Some of us aren't meant to build companies from scratch. It's hard work and you have to fire people. Like, it's not fun sometimes. For someone like me, who I'm like, I can coach anyone to get anywhere. But as an entrepreneur, you have a little bit more room to grow and learn as you grow, and you're getting funded by your own company to do that learning. So it's a really interesting opportunity. All right, I think
Miss,
there's some more hands raised.
I also wanted to ask a question. Like, you help with build Alexa, which is like superb. So technically, how did you help build Alexa? How much time did it take, and how did you like get the AI in a small speaker type box?
Yes.
So I wanted to ask that.
Great. So that was a few questions. So I'll take the first one first, I think. So the good news is today we have what's called low code or no code solutions. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept, but low code, no code means that you can actually build technical solutions with very little knowledge of the technology, meaning you don't have to know how to code to build it. And that's not the end. It's just the beginning. How do you get your idea into a form that people understand what you're trying to do? And then you can get funding. Then a company can sponsor you. Then you can, right? And then you can build it with, like, build an engineering team and create the code. So I'm going to show you today how any one of you can build this. And I hope you can access it from India. We do have, I think so. Let me jot down this list. So, I mean, we do support Alexa in India. So maybe you could try it and see. Were you able to get there, anyone? I don't know. But we have, and I actually was part of the launch team that launched India English in for Alexa. And I was very excited to do it. So all of my skills that I've built, I launched that way. But let me break down what Alexa actually is. It's two main artificial intelligence models. One is called speech recognition, and it's actually called ASR because it's automatic speech recognition. This is what people react to when they're like, oh, Alexa's always listening, because they're nervous because it's automatically recognizing your speech. And the only way for it to do that is to always listen to you, right? But the important thing to know about that is that it is always listening, but it's kind of like a little kid. It only understands certain words. So you could say a bunch of stuff, but it only actually understands, if you know a little bit about sound, it's like a wavelength, right? And so it's highly tuned to listen to a wavelength that sounds like Alexa or Echo or computer. And it's looking for that pattern. And then once it has that pattern, it then says, great, you're talking to me. Let me take you to wherever you want to go. And it opens up a stream to the internet and then executes your request. The second part, though, which is the most important, I shouldn't say that. The people that work on ASR think their work is the most important. But equally as important is natural language understanding, or what we call natural language processing. And what that means is that, right, you say, Alexa, Alexa's ring lights up. So ASR is detecting, did you actually say my name? Okay, you did. Then the next thing that happens is it's sent to an NLU engine, or natural language understanding engine, to say, okay, what did you say and what did you mean? And what that really means is that it takes your words and turns them into text. And then it reads your text and says, okay, you said something about movies and times. So I'm going to go do a quick search on the internet, find the movies and times, and give it right back to you. And here you can see on this screen, these are the blueprints. These are no code implementations of a skill just to get you started. It's a chance for you to get your idea into the world, right? So you can see, let's say you're a babysitter, right? You can offer a skill to the parents you babysit for and say, hey, I can create a skill that allows you to save information for your babysitters, right? You can add value as a babysitter. You could also track your chores. But let's get to some maybe more fun things. These are my favorite. You can build choose your own adventure stories, right? You can create a moon landing, choose your own adventure. And what that means is that Alexa is going to guide you through a story that you built, that you wrote, that you created. And it gives you the ability now to get on a device, and guess how many people are listening or using Alexa in their homes? 110 million people globally. And now when you build this skill, you have an opportunity to publish it to all of them. Here's the kicker though, as with all things, when you build it, we are not in a society where if you build it, they will come, right? If you build it, you'll automatically become rich and everyone will use your software. The magic of building anything in this world is how you promote it, how you get the word out about it. And that's why social media is so useful, but it's also why your authentic voice, you, yourself, who you are, how you smile, what you believe in, what you care about is so important, because that's what's going to draw people to use whatever you build in this world. So we talked about ASR, NLU, and this is the way that you can build skills. I'll tell you right here, inspirations is actually based on my skill, which is kind of cool. So you can go in very quickly, build a skill, and get it out to the world.
I have a question.
Hold on. I think there was someone who's been waiting. I feel like maybe not. Okay. All right. Somebody else will control the order. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, you're right, Noelle. Ariana, you can go ahead. Advai, I think Ariana's been waiting. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, Miss, I had a question. When did you start learning AI?
Yes, great question. So I was working for Amazon, and someone sent me an email that said, hey, we're starting this new thing, which is like a little box that we can talk to. And this was 7 years ago, so nobody knew what Alexa was back then. And they said, would you like to come and help us build it? And here's what, I was not the only one asked, but here's something that I think is very interesting. When presented with this opportunity that was very scary, artificial intelligence, oh, I should tell you, I did not graduate from high school, right? I dropped out of high school because I was not happy with the experience. I then went to university because I got very good test scores. You guys probably have standardized testing, right? So I got very good test scores because I'm smart and I could do things, but I just didn't like school. So I went to university, found the same thing. I just didn't learn that way. The way I learned was practical, fingers on a keyboard, writing on a whiteboard. Like that's how I learned and acquired knowledge. And lucky for me, software engineering is very aligned to that type of learning. I could pick up the skills of software engineering very, very quickly because all I had to do was code. All I had to do was practice, practice, practice. So I got into AI because the opportunity was presented, but most importantly, I chose to say yes. Many times we are given opportunities. I was also an early adopter on TikTok. I just hit 1 million views on TikTok. And I was an early member of the TikTok community. And the only reason why is because someone was like, hey, there's this new thing. And I chose to say, yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll create content. Just like with Alexa. Yes, I'm going to join this team. And not just am I going to join this team, but I joined the team and built more skills, more apps than anyone else on the team. Like I went big. So that's how I got started. As I got introduced to Alexa, I joined a team. I said yes. And then I learned by doing. I built skills over and over and over 100 skills in a year, and launched them all. So that was really exciting. Thank you for that question.
I have
Yes,
a question.
Advai, yeah, you can go ahead. Advai, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so in Alexa, if you press the mute button, does Alexa still hear you?
Great question. So this mute button is very special. The government of the United States was like, we will never have this in our facilities unless you can assure us that when we hit mute, it actually mutes, that it's not a software mute, but what's called a hardware mute, which literally means and if you press that mute button, you'll notice it kind of clicks when you press it. And that means that there's a physical depress that happens that changes the architecture. And yeah, so now it is government approved that when you hit that button, it does actually mute it. There's no listening possible because the microphone at a hardware level has been disabled. Great question. That's cool.
Ma'am, may I ask a question?
Sure.
I have a question. Ma'am, I was asking that you're really inspirational, and I'm very surprised. You're such a helping Alexa. But I was asking, how did you really get the inspiration to learn AI and discover all these new things?
Yes, good question. So I'm going to show you exactly what I did. You may not be familiar with this, but there is a website called Github. Github is where people like me create code and make it available to everyone. I'm going to go to
I have
the,
a question.
Yes.
okay, hold on one second. And if you go here and you type in Alexa, you will find that Amazon has actually created, here's a project I built myself. It's called Alexa Pi. How many of you are familiar with Raspberry Pi? Do you know what that is? It's like a little device that you can create, and it allows you to build your own Alexa. And when you go into these things, it literally gives you all the instructions that you need, right? You go into the links, I have to like click on it and go through it all, but it gives you all the instructions. So this is what I did. I literally went in, this is like the new textbook. I went in, I found projects that were popular and working in the technology I wanted to learn, and I just started rebuilding them. So yes, and most of these, I'll put Amazon Alexa in here to pull up Amazon's version. Oh, I'm already in. I'm too far in. But this is like home to so many different projects that allow you to go in and really, you don't have to know how to do this. You could just copy and follow the steps and do it a few times. I think I did 7 before I created my own, but by the 7th time I was starting to go, oh, I see what's happening here. I see how these are being put together. I understand this more now. So it's really important, again, for me, AI, I learned by doing. The other thing I want to show you really, really quickly, I know it's so exciting, but this is important too, is there are sites, and maybe I can throw this into the chat, but if you go to Microsoft Cognitive Services, this allows you to see AI models right inside the browser, right? So you don't need to like download software or code anything. You could just kind of take a look around and test things out. So let me show you an example of computer vision, for example, and you can actually upload your own images here. I don't have one, but look what happens. It shows you right in the browser when you use artificial intelligence, what is happening. And it looks a little like foreign, right? Like a foreign language. But if you look at it closely, you can be like, oh, I see a bunch of boxes here. Rectangle. There's the size of the rectangle. So it's really just describing what it's doing in this picture. But most importantly, it has this thing called a confidence, right? So it's saying, I see a computer and I'm 56% confident that it's a computer. I see, what else do we see here? Seating. I see a person. I see a table, right? And all of these tags have a confidence interval, and that is AI. AI is using predictive patterns to go, okay, I've seen a bunch of tables. I think that looks like a table, and here's my level of confidence. But then you, very important, the human, have to decide, is it confident enough for us to use that information, to do something with that information, right? 50%, that's like a little better than a coin toss. I don't think I would do anything with that. But if it says I'm 98% confident that that's a human, maybe I could make some presumptions about what I'm looking at. Okay, let's see, who's next? There's lots of hands.
We put a question in the chat.
Oh, great, thank you. All right, awesome. Okay, let me go. Oh, what age did you start? Oh goodness, I was old. So do not let my age be any guidance to you. You could do anything you want right now. I know people who have started companies with their parents' permission at the age of 9, at the age of 12, at the age of 16. My first company, but I came from a different generation. I had a lot more, you know, I guess my parents were not super supportive of that. So what I did instead is I chose to take a different path academically. Right? I dropped out of school and I went right to IBM and got my first job. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Oh yeah. So the blueprints.alexa.com allows you to create a new Alexa skill. So if you go to Alexa today and you said, Alexa, open mindfulness, then it's going to launch an application that's going to walk you through 1 minute of mindfulness. And that, I wrote that, that's mine, right? So when you launch that skill, that little piece of knowledge that Alexa has about mindfulness, I built that. And so you could build something similar. You could build positive affirmations. You could build random acts of kindness. Those are also skills that I created. If you go to Alexa and say, Alexa, open daily affirmation, that's mine. I wrote that. So you might have your own set of quotes that you like, or you might want to build a story that little kids can walk through to learn about fire safety or learn about how to wash their hands. And you can build that application in using any of these. So you can see there's like facts. If you're wanting to maybe build flashcards for a class you're taking, you can do that. All of these are voice application templates. So great question. It is online. You can test it online. You can also, if you have a mobile device, test it on the Alexa app. So the Alexa app is a mobile application on your phone. So if you have a parent who has a phone, you can even test it that way. Okay. Yeah, and so when you build this, you'll notice up here, it says, hi, Noelle Silver. You have to have an account to build this. And the account that you have, it would be good if you are associated with Alexa. But if you're not, and I'm gonna actually go to the skill, oh my gosh, all these windows, the skills I've already made. I've made these during keynotes over the, AI inspiration, we'll say. Here we go. Notice here, it says I can publish it. As soon as I hit publish, even if I've never tested it, it will go to the world, meaning anyone can go into Alexa and say, Alexa, open AI inspiration, and they will get this skill. And so again, that would be something you could do, is build a little bit of functionality, a little bit of some kind of, a game, a quiz, a trivia skill. I'll tell you, my son, not the one with Down syndrome, but my second son, he built a unicorn trivia skill for fun. Like, he was 9. He didn't know anybody would ever use it. Now he gets paid $50 a month by Amazon to keep his skill alive because it has so much traffic. Crazy, crazy. So definitely worth taking a look at. Okay, so someone asked the difference between Siri and Alexa, and actually there is also, there's quite a few what we call voice assistants out there. Another voice assistant is Google, right? We know we can say, hey, Google, to a Google device. Nest is a Google device that's voice activated. And basically the only difference between them is the fact that they are all owned by different large brands. Siri is a voice assistant like Alexa, but for Apple. And so it's natively embedded into every Apple device. Alexa, of course, has its own devices. I have over 100 voice-enabled devices in my house, mainly because I have people like my son and my dad that need voice-enabled devices to navigate their world. But our microwave is voice-enabled, which means it's voice-enabled and sensor-enabled, which means I will never have a burnt popcorn in my house ever again, because it knows what that looks like. It knows what it smells like and what it sounds like, and the sensors will turn off cooking before it ever burns. Pretty cool stuff. But yes, the platforms are different. Google has their own set of devices. One day, my dream is that we will build one, basically be able to, as an engineer, build one voice application, and it will get served on all the platforms. But today, it's easier to build for each one individually. I will show you another example of an application of a startup, which is actually growing quite well now, voiceflow.com. So VoiceFlow is basically a company that has created a platform for building voice applications. And you build it, you can see here, it says Alexa skills, but also Google skills, also voice systems in companies. IVR is like when you call a company and the phone, is an automated voice message system. So many different things you can do, and VoiceFlow allows you to do it once and deploy it everywhere, which is kind of interesting. All right, other questions? Oh yeah, Cortana's, oh yes, there's also Cortana. Cortana is kind of a sad story. I was working on Cortana, and basically now Cortana is embedded into laptops and actually integrates with Alexa. So there's a big handshake moment between Amazon and Microsoft to have those two things work together. Okay. Yeah, so I also have another question that says, can these skills that you create on Alexa be built by anyone? And this is such an important point because I often have said, like, AI for everyone, AI for all. And then I realized there are some bad actors, kind of like hackers, right? Who will use good technology for ill intent or not great purposes and will actually hurt people. And so, yeah, when anyone can build a skill, but to have it launched across all devices and all homes, it has to go through what's called publishing certification. And so it is certified by a team, a very large team at Amazon, and they will not let any skill go to market that would infringe on someone's privacy, that would be dangerous or hurtful, that advocates for hate, any of those types of things. There's a bunch of user agreements that you have to sign when you build for Alexa to get if you want your skill out into the world. There's a lot of precautionary steps taken to certify that you are building a safe and helpful solution. So hopefully that is helpful. Let's see. I'm making sure I didn't miss anything. I think I covered that. Okay, great. So yes, so basically I'm glad I was able to come and kind of show you, but AI is such a big field. And most importantly, it is not just for coders, right? I, for example, now teach a lot of product managers, people who will navigate products. There's a specific type of role, and we call them the glue in a company, called a technical program manager. And that's kind of the role that I take on. But what it does is it's the role that sits between the business trying to achieve a goal, likely to make money, and the engineers trying to build something. And they sit in the middle, and they are really the glue that holds everyone together. And you don't have to know how to code to do that work. It's good to know how to, but you don't have to like it and you don't have to do it. Your job is really communication, team management, leadership, organization. Those skills are critical right now. And then most importantly, just your unique voice. The fact that you yourself come from a different place than many other engineers, that you grew up differently, you had different friends, like all of this changes how we build what we build. And so having your unique voice on a team is really important. So I see we have a couple extra questions. Maybe they didn't want to type it in. Do we want to serve those and then we can call it a day? I think, let's see, I'm trying to figure out who is this person. Team 8 raised hand. Okay.
Go ahead, Tiffany.
Don't be nervous.
Who would like to ask a question?
Yes, go ahead. I can't see your name, but
Daksha, you want to go ahead?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I actually have a question that what makes Alexa so unique?
Well, it was the first of its kind, actually, right? It was the first product to ever go to market in a kitchen and allow you to communicate to your kitchen and ask for recipes and set timers with your voice. It was the first product, and granted, Siri had been out before, but it was only available on a phone. And then even Cortana came, which is Microsoft's voice assistant. It was out, but it also, there was not a good way to use it. And what Amazon did well is they were like, wow, what if we put this in a contextually beneficial environment, which means, what if we put it somewhere people always need help, which is the kitchen. And now, of course, it's used in many, many other rooms, but that's how they started. And that was really impactful.
Kids, shall we go with one last question, darling? Because I know some of you are pinging me that you'll have to go for dinner. So
yes,
whichever way. Who would like to go next?
I see this girl with a yellow and black shirt. I can't see her name though.
Peony, you want to go ahead?
Yes. So, what are the most important things that need a solution to?
I'm sorry, ask that again.
What are the most important problems that need a solution?
Oh my goodness. You name it. Energy, right? Climate change, poverty, food, waste management, you name it. This is the beauty of the world you are in right now, is that you can, any idea that you have, any problem that you, and actually that's maybe the better approach is, what problem are you currently experiencing, right? Like, what do you see? This is what drove me to build what I've built in AI, is I looked around and I saw my son couldn't engage in the world in the same way that his typically developing sisters and brothers could, right? I found that my dad, who was getting older, couldn't use a phone, or couldn't do those things anymore. Couldn't use a computer. But that's not fair. Like, he's going to be on this planet for another 20 years. If he can't use a computer, what's going to happen to him? Right? Like, so I was driven by my very personal experiences to build things that now touch a lot more people, right? Alexa in the classroom, and there's so many more opportunities. So yeah, I think that that's a big part of what makes this time so special, is that your unique challenges in your life could drive the building of a solution that will help many people. But even the big stuff, climate change, food resourcing, energy resourcing, waste management, all of those things need our help. And the tech is there. We actually need humans to envision a solution that uses the tech, right? The tech is already at your fingertips. You can do it. We just need your idea of like, oh, I wonder if we could do this. I wonder if we could use drones to survey land, to spot wildfires. I wonder if, but it takes a human to make that decision. AI is super smart, but it cannot envision. It cannot create solutions out of nothing. Only we can do that. Only we have personal experiences that drive innovation. And that is what we need from you all. So there is one final question. I'm going to ask you to unmute so you can.
Okay. So I just wanted to ask that, is there a particular way to use this app to publish it on Alexa? Is there a particular
Not a
way?
particular way. It's very easy. Like for this one, I'll go back to the skill store, to the blueprints. If I picked one, and this one's very easy, inspirations, because it's based on my skill, right? You're just creating a list of motivational quotes. So it's not the tech that's the hard part, it's the content. It's what you want to share with the world, right? So I say make my own, and you could do this very thing, and all you're doing is typing in good content. So what would someone be inspired by if they use this? So you want to go and look at, like, maybe technical entrepreneurs inspire you. Maybe people like Oprah Winfrey inspire you. Maybe little kids who have ideas inspire you, right? So you collect all of that content and you come here, put it in, and then publish it. And then there's going to be a group of people. I mean, there's 7 billion people. There's a group of people in this world that will see this content and go, oh my gosh, that's awesome, and I want to use it, right? I have 1 million unique users, but not of one skill. They're spread across 100 skills. So, and they've been around for 6 years. So they've had some time to collect some users. But you're going after, how do you create good content, deliver value to the world, be of service? And when you get that into this medium, you now get access to a lot more people. But yeah, this is the way you build it. And then at the end, when you're done, you'll notice you can add more quotes. You can edit the ones that are here. And then I have to move my little screen. Then you just say next. It's going to ask you to name it, which you can see it'll automate this name, but you name it whatever you want, like, let's see, girls in AI wisdom. Oh my goodness, right? And then I create the skill. Oh, darn. Okay. I'll just say girls AI wisdom. Let's see if that works. Oh, good. See, so this is, remember someone was asking why or how it works. Oh yeah, that's right. And this is also one of the reasons, because this is turning into text, and AI is an acronym that the natural language understanding model doesn't know. So we have to kind of coach it. All right, we're almost there. Oh yes. All right, we're gonna, ding it. So you can see it's kind of like a challenge, right? So eventually we'll create a name, AI, oh, I did this already, AI, and that's where I ended up with AI inspired. Let's see if it'll let me do that. Maybe there's already one out there. Oh my goodness. Oh, okay, let's try this. A.I. Anyway, you get the idea. So you have to figure out a name that matches. I could just use inspirations, but I wouldn't want to use this, right? That's just to help us move along. You can only use abbreviations. What? That doesn't make sense. Okay. Oh, maybe I put a space in there by accident. Oh, inspiration quotes. Let's try that, for goodness sakes. Ah. But that's part of it, right? Like creating something meaningful. Like it's a creative process and a marketing process. And now you'll see here, I can edit it while it's being built. And then once it's edited, right now you can see I'm creating your skill. I can now test this skill, which I did not edit, right? I just threw it together. This is a bad example. Normally I spend a lot of time thinking about the name. I spend a lot of time thinking about the content. And then when I publish it, I can then test it on my phone. I don't need an Alexa device to test it. And then once it's done, you'll see the ability to just test it locally. You'll also have the ability to invite your friends to test it, which is what we call allow listing, where you allow certain people into your little environment to test it out. And then if you are really confident that it's perfect, you can publish it to the world and it'll go through the certification process. Oh my gosh, we've been here for so long. So thank you so much for having me. I hope that was helpful and answered your questions.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Noelle. I think, it has been so enlightening, so energizing, right? And I think, that it was so inspiring the way you really drew so many parallels with what you have learned, and especially with Alexa and the way you've taught the children how to use these tools to build their skills. I think most of them are going to go at it now and really get connected. So
yes.
thank
And
you
we could
so,
always
so
do a
very
little
much.
workshop one day if we wanted to plan something later.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. This has been truly amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I always like to show my little heart emoji. So if you have one, you can show yours too. But thank you so much. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you, kids. You want to say thank you to Noelle?
I think all the hearts have pretty much, they've literally lighted up our screen. So that's beautiful.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Noelle. My goodness, I had not expected a 15-minute